What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down why tomorrow is going to be a very important day again, as we have Jerome Powell giving a speech and very important data coming out, and I'm going to break down what's going on with all these charts as we're seeing new developments. But before I break the devil's information, before I get into any more details and talk about the charts and some very important predictions I have for tomorrow, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit $500 into the account, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks. If you deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 free stocks, and this offer ends in just a couple of weeks. Anyways, today was a very, very wild day. We had Tesla's deliveries, which came out, not to mention a big reaction from the markets, especially because of the data we got from yesterday when it came to the overall manufacturing numbers. So we saw a little decline in the markets, and then as time went on, especially after the jobs numbers came in aligned with expectations, the market slowly saw a big change in its order flow, and then that led to this little rebound that came on SPY. It wasn't that significant. It's actually very small compared to how much we dropped over the last 2 days. So we'll have to see what this leads to going into tomorrow. And a big factor is going to be the one and only Jerome Powell. So I'm going to talk about what I think will end up happening approaching his speech, some very important levels to watch for, and all this data. But I'm first going to talk about the data side of things before I break down the charts. So in case you guys missed my early morning video, here's a reminder about Tesla. Tesla basically only delivered 386,000 cars. This is actually a lot lower than what the expectations were. Much of this was priced in, which is why Tesla didn't crash extremely hard, but there is still now some opened doors for Tesla to drop even more if we get like more selling in the overall market, and because of the uncertainty this leads to. Because Tesla needs to clarify what's going to happen with their guidance. Are they going to still have another weak quarter like this? How are they going to continue to grow? What is the plan for advertising? We need more clarification, and for now there's uncertainty. So it does lead to a little bit more fear for the stock, especially as the media is going to continue to scream about this miss. Now, on top of that, let me just say I'm not really a massive bear for the long term for Tesla. I'm still a huge bull. I'm very, very bullish for Tesla's long-term future, but the short term has lots of macroeconomic factors, not to mention other things that Tesla is using as reasons as to why their sales declined, from the Red Sea conflicts to what happened with the Giga Berlin when there was that arson attack, and a lot of the production halts that they had. So all those things alongside macroeconomic effects played a big role in why this happened. This also happened across China with BYD and the others. Just wanted to give you guys another refresher on that. What's happening with the data moving forward? Well, today we had the jobs numbers come out. They were actually aligned with expectations for the JOLTS job openings. So the market actually kind of like this. It actually just continued to drop and trade sideways a bit. And then later on, it slowly started to curl back up as we had some Fed speakers. We had Bowman, Mester, and Daly all giving their speeches alongside Williams. A bunch of these Fed speakers came out for today, and they're coming out in preparation for Jerome Powell. So what's happening tomorrow? Tomorrow is Wednesday, April 3rd. Here's your answer. It's very simple. First, there's not really much data coming out in the morning. It's all very minor, but the real time to be watching for data starts at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 15 minutes after the market opens. So we have the S&P Global Composite PMI coming out at 9:45 a.m. alongside the Global Services PMI. These are very important things for our sectors out there, especially for services. Then we have lots of services data coming out later on at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. 30 minutes after the market basically opens, we have more services data. We have the services PMI, services business activity, services new order, and services prices all coming out. Let me note that these bottom two right here are two of the most important ones, right? New orders and prices are very important because they give us more gauges about how inflation is looking, and it's very forward-looking data, so make sure you watch for that very carefully. And then after all of this data comes out, the market's going to react to all of this. We'll have to see what the reaction is. Approaching this data, I am actually thinking the market may try to push upwards a little bit, and then we'll see what happens from there. And then we have another big factor. It's going to be right here. The biggest one is Jerome Powell, who's going to be giving a speech at 12:10 p.m. We also have other Fed speakers like Barr also giving a speech, but the main one is Jerome Powell. When he starts opening his mouth, there's no telling what's going to happen. I don't know if he's going to be kind of in the middle and very, very, I would say unbiased, or maybe very, very uncertain, or if he's going to be more fixated on saying that the economy is strong. I'm not 100% sure about what he's going to say. So I would say the best thing to do is just wait and see and be prepared for anything, because when he opens his mouth, the market may make some crazy, crazy moves. The last time Jerome Powell spoke, Okay, it was last Friday, the same time PCE came out. When Jerome Powell was speaking in San Francisco last week, he basically said that reducing rates too soon would be very disruptive. He also said that waiting too long could mean unneeded damage to the economy and the labor markets. That's why labor numbers are very important. He also said one important thing, the economy is strong. There's no hurry for them to cut rates. And I do agree with that. I think that the Fed is not going to be cutting rates for the super, super short term. I think that the rate cuts may have to happen maybe later on during the year. And I think that's part of why I say that is because when you look at the data that's been coming out, especially from the ISM manufacturing numbers yesterday, we're seeing some signs that suggest inflation might start going up again, right? That's very, very important, and we have to be very careful. The last CPI came in a little bit harder than expected, so I don't think it's safe for the Fed to say we're going to cut rates from this point. Nope. I think they have to keep rates the same for some time, maybe higher for longer, and then they may have to consider cutting a little bit later on during the year. That's kind of like the way I see things. So we have to be careful. If Powell kind of reiterates this could be a little bit more bearish, but we'll have to wait and see. The last time he spoke, the stock market actually gapped up on Monday, got a big pump all the way up to the new all-time high on SPY. Then it started to decline. Then we started to see it slowly start dropping. So that's what happened the last time Powell spoke. We'll see what happens from this point on. One more thing I'm going to talk about before I break down the charts. Right now, the market used to be, or right now it's quite greedy. It used to be extremely greedy. Now we're just greedy. So it's kind of shifting a little bit more towards neutral. So be careful with this. Market momentum is now back down to greed. It's not extremely greedy, just at greed. And then simultaneously, we're seeing some changes here. The put and call positioning is still at extreme greed as we saw a lot of puts being closed. And as these puts are being closed, the market starts dropping and we start to see the calls getting hurt. So it's kind of ironic how this is playing out. If this gets a big spike up like this, generally that does lead to sell-offs. We haven't really seen that yet. So this is not working how it normally does because the market's been selling off despite a lot of puts being closed and despite the ratio kind of like dropping. So it's a big shift in the way things are working. But one thing that's working like normal is the market volatility. We could see the VIX versus the 50 daily moving average. It actually broke past it. So the VIX is starting to show a little bit of strength. Will it continue to push or will it end up coming back down to fill its gap? This will depend on Jerome Powell. We'll see what Jerome Powell ends up saying. So how do I see this in the charts? What do I think is going to play out? I'm going to now focus on this. Right now, SPY is currently at 518.9. If we try to push a little higher, watch 519. We have a little bit of tight resistance here. We also have that resistance close to the 200 EMA on the 1 hour time frame. If we break through this, watch 520 as our next level. If we get above 520, we do have this zone right here to watch for. Previous support becoming resistance at 521. Then we have this high to be watching for around the mid 522s. So those are some levels on SPY from the gap fill, not to mention this 520 resistance. For support, we're going to be watching not just 518, but if we lose this 516.5 is coming, followed by 515. Very tight levels. In my opinion, SPY looks like it's going to try to push a little higher. So we might see a nice move to about this 520 area again. And we might try to push a little bit higher towards our key Fibonacci retracement areas, because if I were to take a Fibonacci retracement chart, hopefully this isn't too messy, but I'm going to try to do it just for like a second. But one thing that I will see is that, wait, hold on, I think I used the wrong tool. Give me 1 second, guys. One thing that's worth noting about it is that we're still at a very, very critical level. And we're still approaching our 0.236. We haven't really broken through it just yet. So we'll have to see if we actually try to get a clean push through it. If we get confirmation of a breakout, our 0.382 retracement around this 520 area is going to be our next target. That looks very reasonable. I could see it actually coming up there. So it makes a lot of sense how this is aligning. So I could see this actually pushing a little bit higher. I could see that in the morning, hitting a key fib level, not to mention this other resistance, and then we'll have to see what Jerome Powell causes after that, and also all the data reaction. So if SPY kind of like hits this 520 area, maybe goes a little higher, maybe we react to the data, we just kind of trade sideways, and then Jerome Powell starts speaking. Does he launch this thing all the way up to 524, or do we get another rug pull, establish a lower high, and start sinking? That all depends on him. So I think that we might rebound a bit. We will react a bit to the services data. I'm not 100% sure about how that's going to look. And then Jerome Powell is going to cause a big move. We'll just have to wait and see what he causes. So I think that that's how the entire market's going to move, kind of like in unison. The market fell together. Almost every stock is in the red. So you could see how these algorithms kind of took over. So in Tesla's case, it's looking kind of flat right now. Watch 165 and 162 as support. Watch resistance at 167.8, 170, then around this 173 to 174 zone. I would say that Tesla, in my opinion, it's on a downtrend, but if the market does rebound a bit, we could see Tesla attempt to retest 168, maybe go a little higher, then come back down, just continue to trade sideways. And then Jerome Powell could help Tesla go back to about the 170 area, a little bit higher, or he could cause a big rug pull all the way back down to 160. So it's all going to depend on him at that point. For Nvidia, I'm going to talk about Nvidia, then the QQQ, by the way. I am concerned about one thing on Nvidia. When you zoom out of the chart like this, you could see that we have a very, very clear looking head and shoulders like structure. So we have a left shoulder here, a head and then a right shoulder, which does suggest more downside as a possibility. But in terms of levels, we're still inside of the bounds of our range. So we have resistance around this 908 area, and we have support around 892. We've been going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for many, many weeks, or for quite some time right now. So I would say the best thing to do is just wait and see which way we break. We could see this thing attempt to push back up to 900. We'll see if we try to break past it or not. If we fail to do so, there's a risk of it coming back down to like 885, if not 880. So I could see this actually declining a bit. The share price is looking a bit more bearish. Could pop a bit, then come back down. It's looking a little bit weaker. Unless we hold 892, so I'll be waiting for that. I am concerned about the head and shoulders, so keep that in the back of your mind. There is a risk of Nvidia showing some weakness, but whether or not this does continue could also be determined by Jerome Powell. So we might kind of pop and drop again tomorrow, remain range bound, and then when Jerome Powell starts his speech, we'll see if he causes Nvidia to push back up to 920 or if we get a big rug pull. I'm open-minded to anything. On the QQQ, it's the same thing essentially. This looks like it's going to try to push higher and actually outperform a bit. So maybe Nvidia might actually help this a little bit, but then Jerome Powell will determine if this move lasts. So I think that the QQQ could attempt to push for not just 442, but possibly the 443 area, which is where we had this previous support. So this is where the breakout happened. It's just a very, very textbook backtest that could be coming right back up here. We might see an attempt to push a little higher, and then we might see some sideways price action depending on the services numbers. And then Jerome Powell will determine if we keep going up to 446 or if we get a rug pull back down to 438 or so. It all depends on Powell at that point. So I do see a little rebound coming approaching him, and then we'll see what happens from there. Apple's on a bit of a decline right here. It's consistently rejecting off this white trend line right here. It could push a little bit higher and retest this, and we'll see if it tries to break or not. It might retest this and reject or break through it depending on Jerome Powell, but I see a test coming, so I might try to push a little higher and watch and see what Jerome Powell causes. That's it for the main five I typically go over. Now I'm going to be kind of fast to go over a couple more. So on Palantir, I know a lot of people are interested in this. This is looking a little bit weak right now. It did grab this zone here, triggering these stops down here. I could see a test of about this 23.2 area might actually come up a little bit and then reject back down. And then Jerome Powell will determine if we go all the way back up to about 24, if we get a bit of a rug pull, in my opinion. So we'll just have to wait and see. Supermicro is kind of flat right now. We did lose 1,000. We're showing a little bit of weakness right here. We're barely at 980. I did call out 980 if we lost 1,000. And the trend is looking a bit more bearish because we had this high up here, came down, made a lower high, and we're just continuing to sink. So I would say this trend looks bearish. The chart is looking a bit more bearish, but just to be safe, we'll see what Powell causes. This could decline a little bit more, make its way down towards 964, and then we'll see if we get a big bounce back up to 1,000 or not, or if we just continue to sink. That may also depend on Jerome Powell, so just wait and see. Rivian is down because their sales weren't necessarily the best. We're barely at 10.5, and when you zoom out, the chart is eyeing this like head and shoulders like structure. We have a left shoulder here, a head, and then a right shoulder forming. So we might see a rebound, an attempt for 10.68, and an attempt lower after that. So I do see this slowly decline to 10.25. I think that's eventually going to come down a bit lower. So look for a little pop and drop like move on Rivian. Share price looks bearish to me overall. For SoFi, it's very boring. We've been stuck between 7.2 and 7.5 for many, many days, and we are showing a little bit more weakness now. Jerome Powell will determine if this thing bounces or not. If it does bounce, we could get back to about 7.5. If we fail, 7 is coming, but I do see a very, very interesting change in the share price. For AMD is kind of flat right now. It's in a very, very strange place. It was trying to rebound, showing some life, got a little bit of a rug pull after the data that came out for today. And now I would say that we're barely testing the 177.5 area at the 200 EMA. We did break below it and we're back up. So I'm seeing some weakness on the 4-hour time frame. If we lose 177.5 and continue to hold below it, we could be sinking all the way back down to 172. If we rebound off of this, we could be pushing all the way back up towards 182. So we'll be watching this very carefully. So, in my opinion, I think it's very important to watch this just to see how things are looking. I think that we're just barely holding 177.5 and we're kind of stuck right now. So, we'll just have to see if we get a bounce or not. But overall, we're still kind of going back and forth, not really getting much of a reaction just yet. And we're still range bound. So, I'm just going to be watching to see which way we close. If we break above 183 or close above that, we could push higher. If we end up closing below 177.5, we're going to be bearish. Otherwise, we're just kind of range bound for now. On ARM, we're looking a little bit weaker right now. Watch this support right here around the 123 area. Watch resistance at 127. We've been going back and forth for quite some time, and we're still kind of stuck right here. So I'd say the best thing to do is just be patient and wait and see how things go. But I want to note that we're looking a bit more bearish right now. I could see this actually declining a little bit more. The share price did not get much of a bounce for now. It's not really reacting as much with the market, so I'm seeing some relative weakness. So I'd be very careful with this if I were trading this. We have a clear head and shoulders like structure on Coinbase. This could rebound a little bit. We have a gap all the way up here around like 250. Will it rebound to 250 and then start sinking? We'll just sink from here, but the share price is still bearish overall. For Amazon, we're showing some life. It did come down to 178 and then bounced off that. We're kind of range bound. We have 181 as tight resistance and 178 is nice support. We've been going back and forth for quite some time. Look for a test of 181 and we'll see how it goes. For Meta, in my opinion, was trying to rebound just a bit. Maybe looking to see if we could get a push towards 500. If we do break through this, we could push higher. If we reject off this, we're going to be coming back down. But I think that Meta is showing a little bit more strength than other stocks out there. Look for a test of 500 and see how it reacts. I could see it pushing a little bit more. For Microsoft, we're very flat as well, not really getting much of a rebound. It is trying to hold above its 50 EMA. If we hold above 420, look for a push for 422 again. If we break this, we could push higher. If we lose 420, we're going to be sinking back down. Overall, I would say that we're kind of in this range right here, so we'll just have to see how things go. For Google's on a bit of an uptrend, looking pretty nice right now. We're going to be looking at this resistance right here around 157. If we do break through this, we could push higher. The share price is still bullish. It's making higher highs and higher lows. There's no sign of this breaking down. Could push for 157.5 very soon on a very, very slow update, in a slow manner, excuse me. So for the VIX, this is kind of tricky. We'll have to see if the VIX is about to get a true breakout or not. It did bounce off some key support, but I'm not 100% convinced yet. It depends on Jerome Powell. If Powell pumps the markets, we're going to be looking for a big move in the VIX past 15.5 plus. If Powell gives us the rug pull, if Powell causes a rug pull in the markets, it's going to cause this thing to pump very, very nicely. If the market does the opposite, if Powell pumps the markets, don't forget that the VIX has this nice gap down here, all the way down into the 12s. There's a big gap on the VIX. If Powell rug pulls them, if he causes the market to run hard, the VIX could actually get a rug pull back down here to fill this gap. I'm not 100% convinced about either of these directions, so I just need to see what he says. That's going to determine which way we go. The dollar is trying to push, but we had resistance at 105. If we test the support at 104.7, which I think we will, if we get a bounce here, that would be bearish for the markets. If we lose 104.7, look for a drop all the way down to 104.3, and that would be a little bit more bullish for the markets. The dollar is showing some weakness as the market is looking like it's trying to rebound, so we'll just have to wait and see how things go and wait and see what Jerome Powell has to say. With that being said, thank you all so much for listening. I hope you guys have an absolutely incredible rest of the day. The market does look like it's going to rebound a bit, so look out for that on Nvda, on Tesla, on SPY, and the others. Okay, we'll see if we can try to get somewhat of a rebound. But do not forget that we have some data coming out at 10 o'clock a.m. And then we also have Jerome Powell giving a speech, so he will determine if the rebound lasts or not as well. So get ready for Jerome Powell's speech. It's going to be a very important day. Get ready for the move that's coming, guys, and I'll see you guys very soon. I'm going to be talking tomorrow morning about the data and all that, and also Jerome Powell's speech, so get ready for that too. And with that being said, enjoy the evening, enjoy what life has to offer, and I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow. Thank you for listening. The market to the moon because the long term is very bright, and peace out.